Tonight, the president is headed to Capitol Hill for his first major address to Congress of this second term. So another question is, how are Americans feeling about President Trump as he heads to the Capitol? Harry Enten is here to help us set the scene. So set the scene, first of all, overall approval, and how that helps us always have a good sense of how Americans are feeling.
Right. We'll set the baseline here. We'll look at overall approval rating, and we're going to look at presidents at this point in their presidency, right? And the word here that I would use to describe Trump is awful. In fact, the only person who does worse than Trump does right now with a +1 net approval rating is himself back in 2017 when he was at -8. So he's doing better than he was.
I was going to say, you could put it another way. He's making gains.
He's making gains, but he's doing worse than everybody else. The average president at this point, get this, plus 27 points on their net approval rating. Donald Trump is doing historically awful. The only person he beats is, again, himself from term number 1.
How about on the issue that, one, he says he was most elected to fix, and he said he would do it on day one, which would be the economy.
On the economy, well, he beat himself on overall, but on the economy, he can't even beat himself. Again, this is historically the worst going back in polling at this point in a presidency, the net approval rating on the economy. He's right now at -4 points. In term number 1, he was at +8 points. Historically, the average is +15 points. He is doing nearly 20 points worse than the average president when it comes to the economy on net approval rating. He is historically doing awful, awful, awful. Weak. And on the issue on which he was elected to, of course, fix, he is doing historically awful. This is not good. If this number holds, you can guarantee his overall approval rating will go down, and it could take his entire presidency with him.
And this also now can change very quickly because of tariffs. I mean, you have a lot of mixed reaction coming in from especially amongst Republicans on what these tariffs are really going to mean. I mean, can these tariffs help the president?
I don't think they're going to help the president, at least in the near term. And the reason why is simply put, look at the opposition. Americans oppose tariffs on Canada. Look at this. You got nearly 2/3 of the country opposing it on Canada, 64%. How about on Mexico? Nearly 3/5 of the country at 59%. We're already dealing with a president who, what we're having is the economy bringing him down. These tariffs, in my mind, will only bring him down further. Again, historically awful on the economy at this point, and the tariffs, I think, will only lead to further deterioration, Kate Baldwin.
If prices go up, that is not the direction that Americans elected him to push them.
Americans don't like the idea of prices going up. That leads to approval ratings going down.
And Harry Enten getting exercise on live TV. It's good to see you, Harry. Thanks
Nice
so
to see
much.
you.
We're just hours away from President Trump's first joint address to Congress of his second term. There is a lot at stake. My panel is back with me. And Jeff Zeleny, you have a great piece this morning out with our colleagues Elena Treen and Kevin Liptak, saying that it will be an attempt to explain his fast-paced first days in office. And you write, one Trump advisor said a goal of the president's speech would be connecting his rapid pace action so far to average Americans who may not yet comprehend the motives behind them. So too is Trump likely to address his plan for lowering prices. Let's start with the first part of that. How is he going to connect the chaos to everyday Americans?
I think one of the ways is through DOGE and the Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk. He will point to Elon Musk. We're told he's going to be in the House chamber and say, look at all these things we have cut. We are moving at a breakneck pace. We are disrupting the government. That may have sounded better a few weeks ago because once people get to know the actual details, they're not sure about them. But writ large, there's no doubt. People want Washington to be disrupted. That's why they elected him. So look for the president to remind people he won the popular vote. He won all of these battleground states, of course. But I'm just struck by how much more difficult the argument is tonight than it was just a couple days ago when the speech was actually starting to be written. I mean, this is actually acutely going to affect, and people can see it in their daily lives in Michigan. And Alyssa Slotkin, the freshman senator from Michigan, is giving the Democratic response. Boy, talk about some easy lines here in terms of reacting directly to what the president is doing. But look, he was elected with the popular vote. He is still popular among Republicans. Among independents, not so much. But I think that it'll be a long speech, I'm told. It will be a valedictory in some respects, and we will see how much the arrest is in there. But cuts, he will say that he's disrupting Washington like people wanted him to.
Yeah, and then just on Elon Musk, who again will be in the chamber, the Quinnipiac poll that came out a couple of weeks ago, the question is whether or not Elon Musk has too much power. 55% say yes, the right amount, only 36%. And again, you heard John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, say that he has to remember that these are human beings involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we don't know what will happen in the future, but I wonder, will there be a point when people look back and they say, was it really smart to spend the first days of your administration focused not on putting more money in people's pockets, but on firing people and laying people off? And yes, people support, cutting back on government spending, but that can be a bit abstract, right? Like, is that the message? And I think that's the big thing for tonight. How do you connect that to how is this helping you? Mm-hmm. I'm cutting the Forest Service, I'm cutting the weather people. How is that helping you in your day-to-day? So I think that's something that they have to do. But I also think he will kind of play into some of those issues that have been very good for him, immigration, being anti-trans issues. I think those are some things that he will focus on, that the polling has been much better for him.
Well, and, it's really hard to bring prices up for any president because the president doesn't really have total control over that. No president does. So perhaps that is part of why the president hasn't talked about it a lot.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult, which is why they've been so stubbornly high. But that being said, it's undeniable that you have a lot of Canadian companies that refine oil and gas and ship it into the United States at 12:01 a.m. increase their prices by at least 10%. So there is expected to be an immediate hit to some of these prices that are tied directly back to these tariffs, which is why it's going to be such low-hanging fruit for some of these Democrats to respond to Trump in an area where messaging has been very hard for them to hang their hat on. But there are a few challenges for Trump tonight, and that is, on one hand, he's faced with this challenge of suggesting what the end game is. It's not chaos for chaos's sake, but what is he going to try to do? But inherently in doing that, then setting a benchmark for himself that he would then potentially have to meet.
And we've been talking, rightly so, a lot about the economy. His wife, the First Lady, is going to have people in her box. I mean, we always know since the Reagan administration, then they started to bring guests and put them in the First Lady's box, what the message is that they want to get across by who they choose to put in that box. And what we're hearing from the White House is they're going to have guests who try to link the president's immigration agenda to the crime narrative that he pushed almost as hard as the economy during the campaign.
Yeah, and this is the other stool, if you like, of his second term, the issues that he's based his second presidency upon. And he knows that even if he's in trouble with the economy, he can always go back to the immigration question, because that was really the foundation of his entire political career, going back to 2015. But presidents have to tell a story. Good politicians are good teachers. And I think there may be a sense, and this may come hard to Trump, but if prices are going to go up in the short term because of these tariffs, he has to explain to people why this is worth it to get to the future that he's predicting. Ultimately, he'll have two legacies. He'll have the legacy with the MAGA movement, and he'll have the legacy with the country more broadly.
All right, and as we go to break, I just want to put on the screen part of your excellent analysis today, Stephen. Donald Trump just took the biggest gamble of his young presidency. His hammer below tariffs dealt a fresh shock to an economy showing alarming signs of slowing growth and rising inflation, a perilous mix for any president.